Welcome to the latest video of the series How to Paint Your Dark Souls miniature. Today, we'll cover the steps to paint the Pursuer main boss from the Explorer's expansion. If you like this tutorial, you will find much more Dark Souls content, other board game unboxing, how to play videos and reviews on this channel. So if you're new, welcome and consider subscribing to always receive the latest updates. For reference, I'm using this Dark Souls Trilogy compendium that I borrowed from a friend. Whenever I can, I try to make my miniatures the closest as possible from the game. There's basically two colors for the Pursuer, the metal armor and the straps. To start this project, you need the lead belcher for the armor, new oil for the shade, Necron compound for the dry highlights, Sindri dust for the straps, Abaddon black and Corax white for the stone, Longbeard Grey for the highlight, and the black primer. Speaking of black primer, that will be our first step. I detailed the process of preparing the miniatures in another video, so don't forget to check it out before you start painting. For the armor, we'll be using the lead belcher, with Necron compound for the highlights, and the new oil for the shade. We'll start with the lead belcher, applying a base coat in the whole miniature. Don't forget to dissolve the paint before we start, and start applying a consistent layer throughout the model. Take a bit of the paint and start applying on the miniature. Make decisive strikes, but taking care not to add too much paint in the miniature. You can always come back later and add another layer if you need to. Don't be shy to add paint on the insides of the miniature and remove the excess afterwards. At this point, there's not many secrets, just continue to add paint in the model evenly. Once you dry, you should have a shiny base so we can apply the highlights. But first, let's work with the shade. We'll be using the new oil for the shade part. Don't forget to shake the bottle well and use a shade brush to apply throughout the model. This is what it will help us getting the shades and details of the miniature pop. Be careful not to add too much, we still want to get the metallic paint of the lead belcher color once it's done. The final results should be a miniature that has a darker color than it originally had. We're gonna apply the highlights afterwards in the parts of the metal that reflects the most of the light and it's more used in the battle. As you can see in the reference, we're gonna put in the skirt, the shield part, and we're not gonna touch much of the pants of the Pursuer. We'll be using the Necron compound for the highlights, which is a dry paint. Dry colors have a pasty texture, so you're gonna need a clean tissue to remove the excess of the paint of the brush before applying it in the miniature. For the rock base, since it's not too much, I'll be using a mix of Abaddon Black and Corax White, but you could also use Mechanicus Standard Grey, which is another grey color that is dark enough for a stone. Since both are acrylic colors, they should mix nicely, but don't forget to use 2 different brushes to pick up from the different bottles so you don't mess up with the contents of the bottle forever. Afterwards, we're gonna dry brush the rock with long beard gray to get this nice used stone look. Again, don't forget to remove the excess of the paint before applying in the model and keep applying on the edges of the rock. Once it's done, we're gonna shade the interior of the rocks with the new oil. Once you have a beautiful rock, we're gonna work with the straps that are holding the axe of the pursuer. We'll be using Zandri dust and a fine brush to work with the details. Work with several layers if you need to, but try not to hit the metal parts that are already painted. The last step is applying the null oil shade over the straps to get that nice shiny look of the leather. And this is the final result. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and see you next time.